Have you ever noticed how faith becomes exhausting when it stops being an encounter and turns into a performance? How the soul grows heavy when, instead of seeking God, you start trying to impress Him or avoid disappointing Him. It's subtle, almost invisible, but one day you wake up and realize you're praying, serving, reading the Bible, not because you're hungry for God, but because you're afraid of failing Him, and that kind of spirituality transforms no one. It only drains you. So, before anything else, I need to ask you honestly, are you truly seeking God, or just trying to please Him so He won't reject you? Have you ever stopped to examine the real reason behind what you do, not the reason you tell others, but the one that exists when no one is watching? Why you pray, why you read the Bible, why you go to church, why you lift your hands in worship or close your eyes when someone else is praying? Is it love or fear, hunger for God, or a silent attempt to be good enough? There is a deep difference between seeking God and trying to please Him, a difference that looks subtle on the outside but changes everything inside the soul. Seeking God is born from relationship, from thirst, from hunger, from a heart that says, I can't live without you. But trying to please God comes from performance pressure, fear of failure, and the constant feeling of never reaching the standard. Maybe that's why you're tired of faith, tired of prayer, tired of church, tired of trying and never feeling like you got it right. Without noticing it, you haven't been seeking. You've been performing, trying to prove something to God, trying to deserve what was never about deserving, trying to carry a weight He never asked you to carry. And maybe you know this feeling well. You pray but don't find peace. You read but don't find life. You serve but don't feel joy. And no matter how much you do, it always seems like something is missing, as if a quiet voice inside keeps saying, it wasn't enough. God isn't satisfied. You could have done more. Then you get trapped in a cycle of spiritual frustration. Everything feels shallow, insufficient, out of place. Because deep down, you're not encountering God, you're encountering your own anxiety dressed as spirituality. But seeking God is completely different, because it comes not from pressure but surrender, not from fear but love. It's when you close the door of your room and say, Lord, I have nothing to offer, but I came because I need you. When you understand He isn't impressed by your performance, He's interested in your heart. Trying to please God in the distorted sense is like trying to earn the love of someone who already loves you. It is like a child trying to buy the father's love with good grades when the father already loves him simply because he exists. When you seek God, you rest. When you try to please Him, you burn out. And maybe that's why your soul feels exhausted. Because you turned a relationship into a duty, turned love into pressure, turned the altar into a test. And no one can live like that for long. This truth hurts, but sometimes it's the pain that frees you, because God didn't call you to impress Him with performance. He called you to know Him, not to prove your worth, but to live in His love, not to earn approval, but to rest in the acceptance already won at the cross. The Bible says that without faith, it is impossible to please God. And faith is not effort, it is trust, rest, believing in God's character when everything feels unstable. Knowing His love doesn't rise and fall with your behavior, remembering He is who He says He is and you are who He says you are. So breathe deeply and ask yourself, did God place this weight on you? Or have you been carrying a burden that never belonged to you? Because what He asked for was something simpler and far more intimate. Give me your heart. Walk with me. Remain in me. It was never about running, proving, or deserving. It was always about being with Him. Remember Martha and Mary. Both loved Jesus, but responded to Him differently. Martha was busy, anxious, trying to serve, trying to get everything right, maybe even trying to impress Him without noticing it. She wanted to please Jesus, and that isn't wrong. But she became so focused on what she was doing for Him that she missed what He was offering her. Her soul became restless, overloaded, and pulled in every direction. Mary did the opposite of what religious logic expects. She sat at Jesus' feet. She didn't run, didn't perform, didn't pretend. She simply listened, received, rested in His presence. And while Martha exhausted herself trying to do, Mary was transformed simply by being. That's where the story confronts us, because so often we are like Martha, running everywhere, trying to prove our devotion, while Jesus waits for us to be like Mary, someone who stops, listens, and feeds on his words. Jesus didn't praise Martha's effort. He praised Mary's choice. Not because serving is wrong, but because serving without sitting at the Master's feet will always create anxiety, frustration, and spiritual fatigue. The question isn't whether you love God. The question is whether you're so busy trying to please Him that you forgot to simply be with Him. Martha did a lot, but Mary chose what mattered. Maybe today what you need most isn't to try harder, but to release the weight, to allow yourself to start again. Not trying to impress God, but seeking Him which will naturally please Him. Not trying to earn, but simply showing up. Not trying to impress, but allowing yourself to be loved. And if you say, "But I have so many mistakes, failures, weaknesses," then that's exactly why you need to seek God instead of trying to impress Him, because if it were about performance, you would never reach the standard. But because it's about seeking, you can come exactly as you are, with a broken heart, trembling hands, and a messy soul, and He will receive you every single time. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest," because He knew you would get tired and carry weights that weren't yours. He knew you would turn faith into a race, and that's why He calls you back to the essential, back to love, back to the simplicity of seeking Him. Seeking God is when you pray without worrying about sounding eloquent, when you sing, even off key, when you cry without words, when you sit in silence and let your heart speak for you, when you finally take your eyes off yourself and place them on Him. And that is what changes everything. When you seek God, even dark days carry light. Even your failures become material for maturity. Even your pain becomes an encounter with grace. But when you live trying to impress Him, even bright days feel gray, victories feel small, and miracles feel insufficient. So let me ask you gently but truthfully one more time. Are you seeking God, or merely trying to please Him? Take a deep breath. Let this question sink in. Undo what needs to be undone. Break what needs to break, and lead you back to the Father's heart. Because He is waiting for you. Not the perfect you, not the performing you, but you. Simply you. And that is more than enough. If this message touched you, leave your name and your city in the comments. We want to pray for you and your family. And share this with someone who needs this reminder today. Life is short, faith is simple, and seeking God will always be better, infinitely better than trying to impress Him. You are always welcome here. May God continue to bless you. With brotherly love, Minutes of Grace.